For the past 30 years, if you were looking to buy the ultimate Lexus SUV, you were looking at a Lexus LX. Now, as the luxury version of the Toyota Land Cruiser, this vehicle has done a great job at building a pretty loyal group of enthusiasts because of its incredible off-road ability, combined with a reputation for quality and reliability. Now, for 2025, Lexus is looking to further expand its reach as a flagship with the introduction of the first ever hybrid electric model called the LX 700h. At the same time, Lexus is also introducing the most off-road capable version, which is the model we have right behind us. Meet the 2025 LX 700h Overtrail. It gets some specific hardware upgrades that make this vehicle even more capable off-road. And underneath the hood, we have a hybrid turbo powertrain delivering up to 457 horsepower, getting as well up to 22 mpg. So today we're actually out here in Napa, California, because we're finally able to drive the brand new Lexus LX 700h Overtrail. And the big question I want to answer, for those of you who have been looking for the ultimate luxury Land Cruiser, has Lexus built that exact model with this new version? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the specific styling upgrades for the Overtrail version, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, of course, one of the big controversies with this 4th generation LX is the fact that the V8 engine was discontinued, replaced, of course, with a 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6. However, for the 700h, we actually get a unique powertrain because you cannot get this powertrain in any Series 300 Land Cruiser across the world because it's unique here to the US. It's the same 3.4-liter gasoline direct injection twin-turbo V6, of course, with a 36 kilowatt electric motor that is sandwiched between the 10-speed auto and, of course, the twin turbo V6. Now, this engine should be pretty familiar for those of you who have driven the iForce Max powertrain in the Sequoia and, of course, in the Toyota Tundra. However, Lexus claims that the engineers did a lot of upgrades to the system here to basically make this vehicle more akin with what you expect from a Lexus. First of all, if you guys are concerned about reliability and longevity, one thing that's unique about this powertrain, it's the first Lexus and Toyota hybrid that actually has a separate system for a starter and an alternator. It actually has a fail-safe system there, whereas traditionally Toyotas remove the alternator and the starter for a hybrid setup because you don't necessarily need it. Lexus put it back in this model because they basically wanted this powertrain to function normally in case there was ever the rare instance where the hybrid system would fail. It would function basically as a traditional non-hybrid twin-turbo V6, giving you, of course, the redundancy there with the 12-volt battery pack. So that's there essentially to make sure that you can go anywhere. You can go and take this vehicle into crazy off-road situations. And even if the hybrid system fails, you can keep going because it'll function as a traditional gas powertrain. The power output figures here are 457 horsepower, so that's 20 more versus the same powertrain in the Tundra and the Sequoia, but it makes the same 583 pound-feet of torque. If you're keeping score, this has nearly 50 more horsepower versus the LX 600 and over 100 more foot-pounds of torque. So that's a pretty significant power jump, and it also makes the LX more powerful versus the base powertrains in the Range Rover and, of course, the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon and the GMC Yukon AT4 Ultimate trim. It all goes out through a 10-speed auto, like I said, with the company's full-time 4-wheel drive system as standard. What's unique about this model is it reintroduces 3 lockers for the LX for the first time since the 1st generation. So this includes a locking front, a locking rear, and a locking center differential, of course, to give you better traction. It's a full-time system, so you also have a low range, a mechanical low range system. And fuel efficiency, this model is rated at 19 in the city and 22 on the highway. That's about a 2 mpg improvement in the city, 1 mpg on the combined rating. It does have a smaller fuel tank. Lexus had to shrink it down to around 18 gallons, so you're really looking at around 300-ish miles of range on a full tank, which is not great. It's going to make it feel thirstier than it is, but they had to shrink the fuel tank to make the battery system fit, of course. Now, Lexus claims 0 to 60 is 6.4 seconds. It has a top speed of around 130 miles an hour. This vehicle is a body-on-frame SUV. It'll still tow up to 8,000 pounds. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 6,200 pounds. So it adds roughly 300 to 400 pounds of additional weight, thanks to, of course, the hybrid battery pack. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. There was a lot to talk about with the powertrain because that's, of course, the big story. In terms of the exterior styling, things haven't really changed too much. This is supposed to be, again, an update for 2025, but it really doesn't have any styling changes. You can see the Overtrail version kind of gets the standard appearance package that you can get in other trims. You can see the big spindle grille has these big horizontal lines in it, and they are kind of like a matte grayish black finish to it with the Lexus logo that houses the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise and Lexus Safety Sense 2.5. You have a nice camera system. You have the company standard full LED headlights with the triple beam design. They are kind of dark finished for the Overtrail with an LED turn signal, LED daytime running light. You also have LED fog lights down here, which is a nice touch. The grille itself has some piano black. some matte black accents. There's some functional air intake openings. Then of course, with the Overtrail trim, you do get actual skid plates with this model. So if you plan to do off-roading, this vehicle is going to give you the protection and the clearance that you need. Lexus says this model has 8 inches of ground clearance on the standard setup. However, you can jack this vehicle up to deliver over 12 inches of ground clearance and give you the extra clearance that you need to clear those obstacles, clear those big rocks. It's a hydraulic system. As you guys know, this is not an air suspension. It actually uses a fluid. Lexus says that it's more reliable, and it also gives you faster control of being able to raise and lower the vehicle depending on whatever drive mode that you're in. Now, this particular color that we're showing you is a new color called Earth Metallic. It's an extra, I believe, 500 bucks. It certainly looks good with the black accents. You guys have seen this color before. It's the same color that they introduced on the GX Overtrail. On the LX Overtrail, it certainly looks good, although I actually think that the GX's styling is more my cup of tea, but let me know in the comment section below. Now, as we move around the side profile, this is again built on the GAF architecture. So it's a body on frame chassis, of course. It's got a significantly strengthened frame. It's got an independent front suspension with those hydraulic assists, or the hydraulic dampers, of course, with the adaptive variable suspension. Still has a live axle at the back. You can see the Overtrail also includes a unique set of matte gray finish 18-inch wheels with a 6-spoke design. You have a almost 14-inch rotor at the front, a 13.1-inch rotor at the back. These tires, however, are new for the Overtrail. These are the Toyo Open Country all-terrain tires. So these are a 33-inch tall all-terrain tire. So it's because it's 33-inch tall, you have basically a 265 by 70 R18. These are the same size tires that were developed specifically for the Lexus GX. So this is going to give us better traction, of course. This is a 3-peak mud and snow rated tire, so it's a really nice aggressive looking tread. I actually almost wish that it had the raised white lettering, but with the vehicle jacked up right now in its high 2 setting, you can really see the additional clearance it gives you. The Overtrail also gives you these gloss black painted fender flares, which have a nice contrast with the earth color, although this is going to show scratches like crazy if you guys plan to go taking it off-road. You can see, looking at the rest of the profile, you have this black painted mirror, which is power folding, of course, integrated turn signal, along with the black door handles, the black trim. Along the window, of course, you have the dark gray finish roof rails, along with the standard size sunroof. So the one thing about the Overtrail, or the LX in general, is you cannot get this vehicle with a panoramic roof like you can get on some competitors. Now, in terms of the dimensions, this vehicle is the same size as the pre-refresh model at 200.5 inches long, with the same 112.2-inch wheelbase. In fact, this wheelbase length has been the same ever since the LX first came out, and that's because Toyota and Lexus claim that this size is the perfect length to basically give you the best compromise between being able to turn this vehicle on a dime and having the interior space. Although me personally, I think the rear overhang is a little bit too long. So I almost wish that Lexus would have extended the wheelbase by about 6 more inches to give it more rear seat space, which again, that's something that the engineers are going to fight you on because they claim that this is the best number for proportions of the vehicle. Now, moving around to the back, you can see the look is pretty much instantly recognizable as the LX. We've seen this car since 2021. You can see it has the full light blade LED taillights. They're full LEDs, not just a combination. As you can see, LED turn signal, LED brake light, and reverse light. It has the Lexus badge spelled out at the back as opposed to the L logo. And then this is your only indication you have a hybrid. It says LX 700H. So there's no like Beyond Zero badge here, no like big hybrid badges anywhere. Lexus kind of kept it pretty simple and subtle. The rear bumper, as you can see, this right here behind it, you'll find the tow hitch. This will tow up to 8,000 pounds. Lexus says it's frame mounted. You also have a full-size matching wheel underneath here. So this is the spare tire with the same all-terrain tire and the wheel. So this is an important, critical feature if you guys plan to go off-roading. So again, it's great to see Lexus is including that little touch. In terms of the rest of this area here, this glass sadly does not flip up or roll down. You have this traditional wiper back here. You have a nice big spoiler at the back. You also have the availability of the digital camera rear mirror, which is a great feature if you guys plan to put stuff to the roof in the vehicle. And then in terms of the cargo area, you can see a power liftgate is included. The split fold mechanism, however, has been discontinued ever since this generation came out. And the one I'm showing you, as you can see, is actually the 2-row model. We showed you a video of the 3-row version. It significantly reduces the cargo capacity, especially when you pair it with the hybrid. In the 2-row model, this is what people I think are going to prefer, because as you can see, the floor is raised slightly, but because they didn't have to make room for the 3rd row, they were able to keep this a little bit more level. Now, it is a little bit higher. The liftover is higher than what you might expect from like a 2-row version of the LX 600, which technically they don't offer in the States at the moment. But as you can see, because it's a hybrid, you do have a 2400 watt inverter in here, so you can power up things at the campsite, like a refrigerator or an electric grill, for example. You also get this retractable the retractable cargo cover. And then Lexus says this model here offers around 40 cubic feet of storage space. So 40 cubic feet is actually a pretty decent amount. That's going to be more versus what you're going to find in like mid-size SUVs. However, if you want to fold down those back seats, which you can't do it from back here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what that's like from over here. You basically pull on this little lever right here, and as you can see, that flips the seat forward, which will expand the cargo, although there's a big dip over here. So I think most people are probably gonna just leave it down like so, and it'll give you kind of like a little bit of a raised area. But Lexus says when the seat is folded, you'll get a maximum of 71 cubic feet of space. Now, 71 cubic feet of space is good, although for a vehicle that's this large, I was kind of expecting it to have at least 80, maybe 85, 90 cubic feet. In fact, the Toyota 4Runner offers as much as 90 cubic feet of space. So again, that battery pack raising the floor up is obviously eating to the space, but if you want the LX Overtrail with the most cargo capacity, you're going to want this trim here, of course, with the third row seat deleted. Now moving on to the interior of the LX 700h in the Overtrail trim. First of all, if you guys like the interior of the regular LX, the Overtrail is pretty much similar, although Lexus really does step up the luxury here, especially if you guys are comparing it to the GX 550 Overtrail, because looking at the seats, as you can see, these are the semi-aniline real leather seats. If you guys remember the GX Overtrail, that only comes with the Nulux, which is their fake leather. These leather seats are really plush. They're very comfortable and supportive. They adjust in 12 different ways. They are heated and ventilated, and they also come with the massage feature as standard. So you don't even have to add an option package. Basically, every hybrid version of the LX will have massaging seats with heat and ventilation. And these, again, are one of the softest, most plush seats you're gonna find in the segment. Looking at the door panel here, you can see the door panel looks pretty similar to other trims. You have a soft touch injection molded plastic here. You have 3-person memory seats. You do have some genuine black ash wood along the side over here, along with the brown leather interior, the brown interior. This is actually called stone brown, although to me it looks more like a gray interior. You have some padded leather over here, more leather stitching, and then my particular test car also has the 25 speaker Mark Levinson stereo option upgrade. There's some piano black plastic trim, and you have one touch for all four with the typical high quality window controls that you get with a lot of other Lexus models. Down here, unfortunately, it is a hard touch plastic. I really expected Lexus to do a nicer leather stitched area on the lower portion. This is, again, their flagship model. Now, getting in this vehicle, I have it in its high setting right now, which basically means it, I think, has around 11 inches of ground clearance. There's a nice grab handle here, along with this running board. Climbing in, for a shorter person like myself, it's a little bit of a step, but as I come in and shut the door has a really solid sounding thunk, and if you didn't slam it hard enough, it does have a soft close feature. So again, that's standard equipment on every LX. You can't even get that feature on the GX. Now looking at the key fob, you can see here's the current Lexus Intelligent Access key with the typical buttons. The key itself looks pretty nice. It's getting a little bit old in its design, but it has usual lock, unlock, power liftgate, and panic function. You can also activate the remote start from the fob and use your phone as a key if you guys are an owner. But starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is located high here on the dash. Push that. But because this vehicle is a full hybrid, you can hear the engine didn't start up right away. In fact, it kind of just whirs to life very quietly. So even though it has that separate starter and alternator and 12-volt battery pack, it's still going to default to essentially using the hybrid system to start the vehicle up every time. It'll say ready in the instrument panel in case, again, the hybrid system fails, you have that fail-safe there that no other Lexus or Toyota hybrid gives you. So that's, again, a really great touch. Now looking at the rest of the interior, this is pretty much the same stuff we've seen on the LX when this generation came out. I like the way the steering wheel looks. I like the high quality leather that you get with the contrast cross stitching. Other trims like the luxury trims will have wood actually on the steering wheel. This, however, does not. You do have paddles on the wheel, so you don't have to go for the F-Sport model to get the paddles on the wheel. This is a power tilt telescoping, which offers a good amount of adjustability that's linked, of course, to the memory function. There's also a new fully digital 12.3-inch cluster, which that cluster is slightly customizable. You can change the way it looks based on the drive modes. If you go into a Sport Plus, which I'm surprised to see, there is still a Sport Plus setting even in the Overtrail model. I was expecting that to only be in the F-Sport, but you can see it kind of gives you a different look to the tachometer. You can also go to a 2-dial look if you prefer a traditional display. You can also put your GPS in that display. So that's an upgrade versus the pre-refresh version, which had a 7-inch half digital, half analog cluster. The head-up display is also standard. And then, of course, over here in the center stack, you got the Lexus Interface System, which is their latest software. It includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You still have a slightly smaller 12.3-inch display where you can slightly make or widescreen the CarPlay. You can make it full screen as opposed to having the little small icon there for going back to the native system. It's a pretty quick and snappy system. And then, of course, the LX is the only Lexus that gives you the 2-screen layout with this 7-inch helper screen down here. This is a feature that the Middle East really wanted. But again, it gives you another area where you can control the climate for the vehicle, you control the vehicle information for off-roading, you can see like what drive mode you're in, what mode you're in for the four-wheel drive system, and then you have your quad zone climate control here, your drive mode selectors here, along with your multi-terrain select, crawl control, and downhill assist control. And then over here you have lots of buttons for your heated and ventilated seats, your automatic parallel park feature, you have 2 USB-C charging ports, of course. And then what's unique to the Overtrail model is down over here, you're going to see there's a locking center diff button, but over here, buried on the right side of the driver's lower of the dash, you can see there's a button here for a locking rear and a locking front diff. So again, there's 3 lockers in this car. That's kind of very similar to what Mercedes does for the G-Wagon. This is the first time we're seeing an LX with 3 lockers since the first generation LX 450. So again, that's a feature that a lot of enthusiasts really appreciate. You only get it on the Overtrail model, so I love the fact that Lexus included that. This shifter, of course, is the unique electronic shifter that you get with the hybrid versions. You can see push the P to go to park. You basically kick it to the left and then up to go to reverse. That brings up your full 360 camera with trajectory, with distance markers, with automatic cross-traffic braking. It's got good quality and resolution. That's great if you're off-roading as well. I like the fact that this shifter is a larger shift knob, so it's easy to use to actually change the gears, of course, and it also frees up a little bit space in the center console. You also have a standard wireless phone charging pad, which fits my iPhone 16 Pro Max quite nicely. You have more of that black ash wood along the console over here, and then there's a nice padded center console. And then if I open this up, you can see the cool box is actually standard equipment. This is not necessarily a refrigerator, but it can keep your drinks cold. Lexus just doesn't recommend putting perishable meat items in here because it says that it's not designed to actually be a full-on cooler and whatnot. There's also a separate button here that allows you to open it from the passenger side, which is nice. And there's also another button over here that allows you to open it from the rear of the vehicle if you need to access here from the backseat area. Above me, you can see it's got a standard sunroof, sadly no panoramic sunroof, but this does open up and it tilts to vent air, which is nice. There's also a nicer, softer, higher quality material for the headliner, along with the LED ambient lighting and the thematic ambient lighting, which I'll have to show you guys when I have one back home for a week to show you what the ambient lighting is at night. But overall, the seats are comfortable. The massage function, I will say, is annoying because you have to access it through the screen here by hitting the seat controls, going to the massage, and then clicking that and then turning it on from here. I would have preferred Lexus to give us a separate hard button, but again, it is nice how at least it's standard equipment on every version of the LX hybrid. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area and show you guys what that space is like. Now, as you can see, this model that we're showing you is the 2-row version, which means you get the bench as standard. It seats 5 people across. Lexus also says that the legroom for this model is around 36.6, which is not a lot, but it's also not, a terrible amount. Keep in mind, there is also an ultra luxury version, which technically by the numbers, that actually has less rear seat legroom at around 33.9 inches, which is kind of weird because that only has captain's chairs and it's designed to be like the limousine version. But as you can see, these seats basically give you the ability to recline them, as you can see, or you can fold them flat and still flip them forward, even though this model again doesn't have a 3rd row. But without the 3rd row, it does have a little bit of storage space over here. So that's space for the jack. That's a little bit of hidden storage space, which is definitely a nice touch. The battery still lives underneath this floor here, so it raises the floor up. And then if you also look here, when I fold this down, it's not completely flush. So this is not good if you guys, plan to use this vehicle to move a lot of items or require a flat floor. But it is nice, of course, that the 2-row model gives you a little bit more cargo space versus the 3-row version. Now, getting back here, you can see the space. Like I said earlier, this is pretty much my driving position. I'm 5'7". I have a pretty good amount of headroom space, decent legroom and foot space. As you can see, I can get back here and cross my legs and be pretty comfortable. There is a big hump here, obviously, for the middle passengers, and you also have some nice features. Quad zone climate control, heated and ventilated seats in the 2nd row. That's standard equipment on all the hybrids. You have 3rd row climate vents. You have 2 USB charging ports over there, along with a 12-volt power outlet, which is nice. There's also nice features here like the retractable sunshades. That's standard in every version. You have vents up here, more wood trim and soft touch injection molded plastic, although this could be a little bit nicer, I think, considering this is their flagship SUV. Some piano black plastic over here, and then if you fold this down, you can see there's an armrest, 2 cup holders, which is great if you guys plan on only keeping 2 people in the backseat area. But overall, as you can see, if you're looking for a really large backseat, you may want to check out some of the competitors like a Range Rover, but the LX will certainly be able to be usable if you plan to use this as a family vehicle. So here we are behind the wheel of the very first ever Lexus LX 700H. Remember, this powertrain is purely unique to the US market. You currently cannot get a Series 300 Land Cruiser with the hybrid powertrain. In other markets, Toyota offers it as a diesel or a gas option, but this hybrid certainly has been modified and adjusted to fit the whole Lexus persona. I mean, it has extra power than the Sequoia's engine or the Tundra's hybrid powertrain, and We also have that full mechanical backup. Now, Lexus claims this model is capable of hitting 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here. We have it in Sport Plus. We'll brake torque it. Ooh. All right, our first run, we got 6.18 seconds there. Now, that time is pretty good. It's a little faster than what Lexus claims. Although I do want to point out that I had a Sequoia TRD Pro recently that did it in 5.66 seconds here. This time I'm not going to brake torque it because I feel like it slowed it down slightly. We'll just floor it here. It shifts at like 4,500 RPM from first to second. 6.58 there, so I guess brake torquing it did make a difference. That was like on a purely level road. So it is good power. It's a little bit slower than the last Sequoia TRD Pro that I tested back home, so I'll have to wait until I get this car on my usual stretch of road to see if this car could match it. I mean, it weighs probably about 100 pounds more than the Sequoia TRD Pro, or the Sequoia 1794. That's the one that I just recently tested. This model that we're also driving, as you guys probably noticed, is the F Sport model. Earlier, we were doing a walk around on the Overtrail, but this F Sport is the road-going version. And Lexus actually claims that about 20% to 25% of buyers bought the F Sport LX 600. Remember when that car first came out, which shocked me actually, because I always kind of said that the F Sport model was a little bit strange and a body-on-frame SUV. But with the hybrid powertrain, it certainly gives you the extra oomph that you're looking at. This has, nearly 50 more horsepower and over 100 foot-pounds of torque more versus the 600. You can still get an LX 600 without the hybrid powertrain with the F Sport handling package. But with this package, of course, you get the adaptive variable suspension. It's still a live axle at the back. It's got the electronic hydraulic suspension, so it allows you to kind of raise and lower the vehicle up depending on your certain conditions. But it also includes a Torsen limited slip rear, which I actually think is kind of hilarious to find in something like this. It essentially allows this thing to put the power down better in corners. Although it does continue to remember to have a full-time four-wheel drive system, which that four-wheel drive system is, a mechanical system. It gives you an actual low range. It has the center locker. The Overtrails that we were showing you earlier makes the glorious return of the triple lockers, which we haven't seen on a Lexus LX since the early first generation. So it's kind of crazy to think that it's now back. Now you can turn off the traction control via that button over there, and I just want to see how this thing feels when I take a right here and see if you can actually feel that mechanical limited slip diff doing its job. I mean, honestly, most people are probably not going to notice something like a feature like that working in a vehicle that weighs over 6,000 pounds. But what I do like about this powertrain is the refinement. Toyota and Lexus always does one of the best hybrid systems you're going to find in the industry. It's got plenty of smooth power that just feels effortless. It also feels like you can't even notice the transition between gas and electric, because remember, this is a full hybrid system. It draws its power from a 1.87 kilowatt nickel metal hydride battery pack. It has the ability to drive this vehicle on pure electric power alone at very low speeds. I mean, it's kind of similar to the last Tundra or Sequoia iForce Max powertrain that I drove. But remember, this has around 20 more horsepower, but that extra power just comes courtesy of it being required to run on premium gas. So you can run this on regular, but Lexus says that it'll probably reduce the power to the 437. In theory, you could also run the iForce Max powertrain in the Toyotas on premium, and it could make almost 20 more horsepower extra. So that's something that, I'm surprised that Lexus didn't want to push the envelope more, give this a bigger electric motor, a bigger battery pack. I mean, 457 makes this, again, the most powerful production LX ever. And it's not going to blow your mind away with mind-blowing acceleration, but it certainly is smooth, it's refined. It feels like you can basically tackle any kind of terrain. You can tow 8,000 pounds. And it's just quiet. I love the fact that this is a V6, because remember, there is a hybrid powertrain coming for the smaller and less expensive GX, but that's going to have the 4-cylinder iForce Max powertrain in the Tacoma TRD Pro, for example. And that powertrain I just recently sampled is a good powertrain, but it's not as smooth, it's not as effortless and linear as this 6-cylinder. So there is something to be said, obviously, with that 700H badge. I think the badge marketing is a little bit of something that I would leave. If you guys remember, Lexus had an LS 600HL about 15 years ago that had a V8 with an electric motor, and Lexus tried to say it was the equivalent of a V12 with gas assist, hybrid V8. And this, they weren't kind of making any comparisons to that, but I think the marketing for 700H is a little bit silly, but I think the overall feel and package out on the road is effective. This is a really nice ride quality as well. Even though we are on adaptive dampers, we are on 22-inch wheels. I'm gonna switch the drive mode here. We've had it in Sport Plus. I'm gonna switch it to Comfort, and let's see how this thing rides. Because remember, the point of an LX is its dual purpose personality. It basically can go off-road, take you almost anywhere you want reliably. It'll get you there. And you can also drive it down the road in extreme comfort. I'm sitting here getting a massage from these massaging seats, which are now standard equipment on every hybrid version. And that's something that Lexus didn't offer on the LX back in 2022, is you could only get the massaging seats on the Ultra Luxury in the second row. So it's great to see Lexus making that improvement. I have a heads-up display. I have a really quiet interior as well. The engine is so quiet and smooth, but then there's not very much in terms of road and wind noise. It just kind of floats down the road. It floats down the road with, you know, the cushiness of your favorite living room sofa, which is kind of the point of an LX. But at the same time, handling-wise, it's still a body-on-frame SUV, but the steering does respond a lot quicker than I thought it would, considering, you know, just how tall this thing is. You know, it has still a soft suspension, even in Sport Plus, but in Comfort, this is the mode you're gonna drive it in most of the time. So I can see why people ended up choosing the F-Sport model. I mean, obviously, this is not the one you're gonna be taking off-road, and it's also not gonna be the one that you're gonna be attacking your favorite back road in, but it essentially just gives you a much more sporty and youthful look on the outside with some of the upgrades that, you know, you get with the F-Sport handling package. But I mean, with this red leather interior, the build quality, just the level of luxury, it definitely feels like it's worthy of the flagship name, or carrying the flagship totem pole for Lexus. It's just gonna cost you a pretty penny because Lexus, as you guys know, has basically increased the price on this vehicle for the 2025 model year across the board. So I could not take the Overtrail version of the LX off-road, and to do that, Lexus actually set up this little off-road course about an hour north of where we were filming the walk-around for this vehicle. We've also switched over to a Nori Green LX 700 Overtrail, and the Overtrail trim, this is essentially the one that Lexus should have launched the car with, because remember, this is the only way to get a Series 300 Land Cruiser in the United States. I mean, it makes sense to buy it as a Lexus, so we've got significant upgrades to the four-wheel drive system. It's got skid plates underneath. It's got those beefy all-terrain tires. And this thing, I have it in low range right now. We have the MTS in the rock mode. The hybrid system as well just gives you so much torque. It just feels so effortless. We have also over 12 inches of ground clearance, and Lexus actually wants me to climb up this hill. I know it may not look like much on camera, but this is a steep 30-degree incline, and we have it in low range, so I barely have to touch the throttle because of all the instant torque that you get from the electric motor. So that is basically what you expect for a vehicle like this. So I'm going to use the cameras to help me see, because I literally can't even see over the hood. Again, barely touching the throttle on this vehicle. It's incredible how just effortless this car just makes it. I mean, the hybrid system to me makes sense as an off-road vehicle. I've got some spotters to help me out. This is a little area where you can really test out the wheel articulation. You can really feel those wheels slipping around. I'm gonna fall here on my right side, on the passenger side, and not a single scrape as well. So this is just absolutely bonkers. I mean, owners of this car will never do this. At least the first owners won't. Maybe the second or the third owners will. But now we're gonna go over some rocks. This is where that rock mode in the MTS system is going to come in handy, because we're going to be able to use basically the traction control system to kind of help us. I also have the center diff lock. Remember, this car also reintroduces triple lockers. I don't necessarily need to lock the rear. I will if I get stuck, but I think for the most part, I'll let the MTS do its work here. Again, all that ground clearance is essentially ensuring that we're not going to hit anything here. And I'm sitting here also getting a massage. The ride quality is really good. The structure feels really solid. This is absolutely a beast, and that's one of the reasons why the LX has been so popular with off-road enthusiasts. And it's great that they finally gave us a true, basically, Land Cruiser and a Tux, because this whole course, I know Lexus set it up, but it really just ate this thing up. It made it feel so easy. And even though this car, again, is something that I personally wouldn't do if I owned one, at least not as the first owner, with all that instant delicious torque that you get from the EV side, it can just make going through terrain like this so easy, because you barely have to touch the throttle. And that's because, again, of nearly 600 foot-pounds of torque from this hybrid powertrain. Now, when Toyota discontinued the Series 200 Land Cruiser in the US back in 2021, a lot of enthusiasts obviously were very sad to hear about that news. However, as you guys know, the Lexus LX continued in the lineup. In fact, when the company introduced the all-new 4th generation in 2022, this essentially took the place as the Series 300 Land Cruiser in America because, again, if you're going to be spending this kind of money, you may as well just go for the Lexus badge. Thankfully, of course, Lexus saw the appeal for enthusiasts of the LX, and for 2025, as you guys can clearly see, they've decided to really improve on the capability and also improve on the flagship levels with the new hybrid powertrain. And after spending the day driving the all-new 700h in the Overtrail trim, I'm pretty happy to say if you've basically been waiting and searching for the ultimate luxury Land Cruiser, this now is kind of that peak vehicle, because with the increase, of course, with the capability, the skid plates, the hybrid powertrain underneath, the interior also is still a very nice place to spend time, even though it doesn't have the most interior space, especially considering the size of this vehicle. That never has really been the mission of the LX. As you guys saw, the hybrid powertrain is capable of 0 to 60 sprints in the 6-second range to possibly even under 6 seconds. Fuel economy, I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test out for a week, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing can get pretty close to 20 mpg, especially in the city areas, of course. For those of you who are questioning the fact that people would even take this vehicle off-road, because again, it's a 6-figure plus vehicle, just keep in mind, a lot of people who buy LXs or Land Cruisers, they tend to keep these for a long time. And that's kind of the appeal about the LX, is the build quality still feels impeccable. The interior still feels luxurious. It has that dual personality where you can drive this out on the road in complete comfort and isolation, but also be able to take it further off the beaten path. I love the fact that Lexus has improved the tech, and they've also added massaging seats. This is a really well-equipped vehicle, as it should, because if you want to get your hands on this car, Lexus says it's going to cost you at least $115,000 for the Overtrail trim. That's actually the cheapest way to get into the hybrid powertrain. It actually is only around $3,000 or $4,000 more versus a comparable LX 600, although on paper it's looking at like an $8,500 upcharge, but that's because they don't offer the base premium if you guys want the hybrid. My particular test car here with the earth exterior color, and of course the deletion for the third row at the back, saves you around $1,700, has an as-tested price of 116 grand, just over 116 grand. I know that sounds like a lot of money. However, keep in mind, if you're looking at a Range Rover is going to cost you right around $110,000 for a base version. If you guys are looking for a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, that's going to cost you around $150,000 for a base version. Keep in mind, that's before any options on the Mercedes. So there's a lot to be liked here, of course, with the new LX. And it really just kind of depends if, what you're looking for. If you're looking for the ultimate off-roader with luxury and technology, but also is going to last a long time, you should definitely put one of these at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Lexus LX 700h in the Overtrail trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.